in a beautiful mountain village in Russia which gave birth to many class MMA fighters. This world is Dagestan. Dagestan is a republic in the Russian Federation. Dagestan is in the southern part of Russia which borders Georgia and Azerbaijan. Dagestan itself is a region inhabited by around 3.2 million people, with the capital being Makhachev. Recently Dagestan has become known throughout the world. Have you ever watched UFC? Islam Makhachev, two great MMA fighters. In this decade they were born growing up in a village in Dagestan and educated with peaceful Islamic teachings. Khabib was born on September 20, 1988 in Sildi. Sildi is a small village in Dagestan, a village located in the mountains far from the crowds. Throughout his career as a professional MMA fighter, Khabib Nurmagomedov was able to score 29 wins without losing. This record brought Khabib to the peak of his career by becoming King UFC lightweight in 2018, and was the first Russian and the first Muslim to win the UFC Gyler. The most popular fight, Khabib, was against Conor McGregor, an Irish fighter, in the UFC 229 match. Watched by 2.4 million paid viewers, the most for an MMA event, with a TKO victory by Khabib. Apart from Khabib, there is also Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev is a fighter who achieved various extraordinary achievements. He achieved a record of 22 wins and 1 defeat. Islam is also the brother of Khabib Nurmagomedov, both of whom have met in the same ring, but Islam must recognize Khabib's victory. Apart from these two fighters, many fighters were born and grew up in Dagestan, including more than 10. This world-class fighter in the modern era comes from Dagestan. The name Dagestan comes from Turkish and Persian, namely Dak meaning mountain and Booth, meaning that the mountain peak land in certain areas can only be accessed by helicopter. In Dagestan there are more than 1,800 rivers flowing. The Terek River is the main river in the northern Caucasus, a clear river flow and cold air creating a typical mountain atmosphere, different from other regions of Russia. Life in Dagestan is very strong, with Islamic nuances entering Dagestan around the 1st century to become the first Muslims in Russia and is now the largest in Russia. Most Dagestanis have embraced Islam according to the Shafi'i school of thought. For centuries Muslim Dagestan is dominated by the Sunni group. The emergence of Sufism in Dagestan began in the 14th century. Two Sufi orders spread across Dagestan were Naqshbandiya and Qadriya. Sufism has become a daily activity in the country. Simplicity, gentleness, and sincerity has taken root in the hearts of Dagestan Muslims. Dagestan has one of the most famous mosques in the area, namely the Juma Masjid Mosque, which can accommodate up to more than 16,000 translations. Juma Masjid Mosque, or also called Juma Derben Mosque, is the oldest mosque in Russia, which was built in 733 AD. Juma Mosque is included in the UNESCO Cultural Heritage List. This mosque is also close to the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, Turkey. The Juma Mosque is said to be the younger brother of the Istanbul Blue Mosque. This mosque faced difficult times during the Soviet Union era from 1930 to 1943. The mosque was expertly used as a prison, but in 1943 the government returned it to the Ulama Council Derben and is the largest mosque in the North Caucasus. The Islamic religion in Dagestan faded in the years when atheism and Marxism ran rampant under the rule of the Soviet Union, as if it had disappeared from the lives of Dagestani citizens. A major revolution occurred, bringing about the impact of the closure of hundreds of mosques and madrasas. Only in remote Islamic villages was the religion still practiced secretly. But now, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Islam has triumphed again in Dagestan through many rebellions. After the Soviet Union fell, the ruler of Dagestan at that time declared his loyalty to Russia. Before being taken over by the Soviet Union, Dagestan had dozens of madrasas that produced hundreds of Islamic religious teachers. Now, only a few madrasas remain. Most of the madrasas in Dagestan were destroyed and converted into public schools supervised by the Dagestani state. Dagestan is the most multinational region, with around 60 ethnic groups living here and 14 regional languages. Even though the majority of the population is Muslim, Dagestan truly appreciates tradition and simplicity. There are many traditional villages located high in the mountains of Dagestan, reaching 2,000 to 4,000 meters above sea level. The mountains of Dagestan are covered in green grasslands that suit the eyes. The mountains in Dagestan are also famous as the highest on the European continent. A village called Cruz is known as the village above the clouds, because it is located 2,000 meters above sea level. There is also a village that has been abandoned by its residents because of the difficulty of access. This village, called Gamsulti, is the third oldest settlement in Russia and has been abandoned for centuries. The exact age of the village is not known, but it is estimated to be 2,000 to 5,000 years old. At its peak, the village consisted of 300 houses with a population of around 3,000 people. In the 20th century, this village had post offices, shops, and hospitals. However, in the late 1950s, people began leaving the village, and in 2015 the last resident of the village died. Living in mountainous areas makes most Dagestani Muslims earn a living through farming. It is no wonder that various agricultural products are commonly sold here. The Avar is the largest Muslim ethnic group in Dagestan, numbering 800,000 out of the 2.9 million population in the region. Women from this tribe, apart from being housewives, also work as craft makers of traditional robes called burga. The burga robe was inspired by the uniforms of Russian army troops in the 18th century when the Caucasus War broke out. In Dagestan, the durability of the burga robe is highly valued because it can withstand extreme cold weather reaching -50 degrees Celsius. Until now, burgas are still made traditionally in Rakata village. The lack of machine involvement in the sheep fur processing gives Muslim women in Rakata the opportunity to work while continuing to care for their families. Weddings in Dagestan villages are famous for their unique wedding ceremonies. Often, all village residents attend the wedding party along with relatives and friends who live in the mountain villages. Their neighbors are willing to take long journeys to fulfill the wedding invitations from the family of the bride and groom. When they arrive, men and women dance and sing cheerfully. Not infrequently, the bride and groom even dance during the festivities together, interspersed with playful games and pranks on the guests, such as catching them and throwing them into a pool, sometimes after a bit of friendly grappling. Life in the village, full of simplicity and joy, is reflected in these wedding celebrations. Most parties served sak, the most common Dagestani dish, which has many variations. It consists of kever, served with beef broth and sauce. Apart from kal hainal, another dish is chudu, a flatbread usually filled with vegetables, cooked in a dry pan, and enjoyed with tea. There are many more typical Dagestani foods you might want to try, especially for culinary lovers or those who enjoy making bread. These are some highlights from Russian Dagestan.